Annie Thorisdottir is not participating in the Open for the first time. So what?
For moral reasons, I cannot partake in the Open this year.
So you just saw a bit of the clip from the Buttery Bros video, and you can watch the whole thing. It is at about 19 minutes into that video about Wodapalooza, following the daughters around for the team competition. But Annie says that for the first time in her CrossFit career, she's not competing in the CrossFit Games Open. It's actually the first time since the Open existed because she started CrossFit prior to the Open format happening. So she's been part of the Open every year. She's even done it through her pregnancies. And I say, so what? I don't say it as in Annie's not important, but what does this mean for the season? And honestly, I think not a lot, right? I do think Annie Thorisdottir, even coming off her second pregnancy, had a good chance of qualifying for the CrossFit Games, even with the field being cut down to 30. She's shown that she's been so fit over so much amount of time, and she was back on the podium about a year after having her daughter. Doesn't mean I think she's gonna podium, or she could have podiumed this coming year, but I think she had a good possibility of making it if that's what she wanted to do. But it doesn't really matter that much. I will say Annie has been, like I said, in the CrossFit Games space for a very long time. She's won the CrossFit Games twice. She was the first female person to do that. So there's a lot of excitement around her and a lot of attention on her. So I do believe that it will have influence on some people when Annie Thorisdottir says that she's not doing the Open for moral reasons. There are fans of hers who might decide, well, if Annie's not doing it, maybe I shouldn't do it either. Whether or not Annie wants to influence people, because she has this influence, because she's been in the space for so long, because so many people look up to her and respect her, it is going to influence people. It's impossible for someone of her magnitude to say something and not know and expect that it is going to have an impact on some people somewhere. That's just the truth. And I'm sure she's aware of that because she has to be. Over the amount of time that she's been a public figure, she's seen that what she says impacts people. And she can feel a responsibility to express how she feels and let people know and let people do with that what they will. But for the season's sake, I think Annie not being in the field likely won't impact the winner. And Annie is not the first person who's come out saying she's not doing this year's CrossFit Games season, and I don't think she'll be the last. If you are unaware, this past year at the CrossFit Games, the 2024 CrossFit Games happened in Fort Worth, Texas during the first event, which was a run-swim event. Lazar Jukic died during the swim event. He drowned. And a lot of people in reaction to that either pulled out of the games in 2024, or some of them are saying they're not going to do the games this year. I even feel like, you know, obviously his brother Luca is, not obviously, but as people would expect, would be a possibility. Luca is not competing in the CrossFit Games season, Lazar's brother. And there's been some other athletes, especially the European athletes, who were more likely to have more of a relationship with Lazar, saying that they are not competing in the season. Emma Tall at Wodapalooza was talking about how Wodapalooza was the end of her season. That's a very odd thing to say for it being about a month before the CrossFit Games Open.
I needed to stay fit for Rogue, and then after Rogue I decided to do Wodapalooza, so then I needed to stay fit for this. So it hasn't really been an off-season for me at all. So I'm looking forward to it after this.
So that insinuates that she may not be competing in the Open. We're gonna see this. This is going to continue to happen. I don't think it should feel shocking every time it does. I think we should all anticipate that there'll be more Annie Thorisdotters to come down the line as we get closer to the CrossFit Games season. And then also as we have the first week of the Open go by. Once the first week of the Open goes by, we'll see who puts in those scores, and that will tell us who's competing in the Open season, because you can't skip one whole workout and still make top 1%, which is what you need to move on to the CrossFit Games. It's gonna continue. This is just the beginning. Buckle up. I was just looking at a comment that asked me a question about the Annie Thorisdottir situation, and they used the phrase that she's doing this in, putting this in quotes because their words, not mine, protest of the CrossFit Games season. She's allowed to do that. She can protest whatever she wants in whatever way she wants. It's one of the luxuries people have. And other people can jump on board with her in that protest. And it may have some impact on the CrossFit Games season. But I would say it would be a small one. Because the truth is, Annie sits out. Annie had a good chance of qualifying for the games. Someone else will qualify. We're not going to have an empty games field. We're not going to only have 20 people there because we couldn't find 30. There will be 30 people at the CrossFit Games competing for the title of fittest on earth, which is what CrossFit calls their winner. That's it. Like, that's still going to happen. No matter how many people sit out and protest, we will have a field of 30. It will be impressive athletes. Athletes who maybe haven't gotten the opportunity before will now get it. And that's awesome. Other people will step up. So it's fine for people to step back because of their morals or they don't feel comfortable, whatever it may be. Respect that. It's totally fine. It's not going to result in the games not happening or us not having enough people to fill a field. That's just not going to happen. We'll have new people. It'll be exciting to see new up-and-comers. And then these people will deal with whatever repercussions, if there are any, from sitting out the season. Although someone I was on the fence about doing the CrossFit Games season was Jeff Adler. Jeff Adler did pull out of the games in 2024 after Lazar's death. I think those are the people we're most likely to see not compete again this season, although some people who did finish the weekend probably didn't have time to fully process it, and maybe their thoughts have changed since then. And could happen with the other people, right? The people that did pull out, now that they have processed it, their thoughts can also change. Jeff Adler insinuated in an interview with Coffee Pods and Wads that he is going to be doing the Open.
I'm gonna try and do as much as I can.
That it'll be difficult to do all the options this year because we do have this World Fitness project that has popped up, a lot of different semifinals, structures with the in-affiliate semifinals and the in-person semifinals. So he did insinuate that it is a lot.
I'm gonna try and do as much as I can for the first part of the season, and then I think some decisions are gonna need to be made.
But he made it sound like he's going to keep open as many doors as possible. And the way I would read that is that he does plan on doing the Open. And for someone of Jeff Adler's capabilities, doing these 3 workouts in the Open and making top 1% is cake, right? Like, he doesn't have to do much to do that. Me, regular athletes, we might be programming our week around doing those Open workouts and trying to do our best in them, maybe repeating them. But for someone who's won the CrossFit Games and then won Rogue, he's not structuring his whole training season around the Open workouts and a top 1%. He can just do that. And it sounds like he's going to. So there are going to be athletes like that we were a little bit unsure about, that we didn't know because they pulled out of the games last year, if they were going to be doing this season 2025, who will be at least throwing their hat into the rink. And based on that, we should also remember that just because someone does the Open doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to try for the CrossFit Games. It could just be a matter of, let me keep all the avenues open that I can so that I have the best opportunity to do something with my season. And finally, we're starting to see more and more people get into in-person semifinals. The Mayhem Classic field continues to fill up. I'm sure I'll do a video on more of that once we have all the people. It's actually one of the first semifinals to qualify people to the games, so that will be something for sure that I'd talk about. But there's a bunch of names there, so we're just gonna leave that for now, but you can check that out if you're interested in it. The Fittest Experience, TFX, was this past weekend. That's a competition that's been going on for a long time. They will also be hosting an invitational in a few months that will qualify 2 women and 2 men to the CrossFit Games. And the pro division from the competition this past weekend, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, get an invite to compete in that invitational. So we're seeing more and more people get to this next part of the season already, and the Open hasn't even happened yet. But they cannot qualify for the CrossFit Games out of the Invitational that will be happening in a few months unless they finish top 1% in the Open. So these 3 women, 3 men that have qualified for the Invitational, if they want to try to go to the CrossFit Games, they do still need to do the Open. They haven't checked off all the boxes quite yet. Those people, though, the men are Casey Strong, Jacob Marlowe, and Matt Brady. And the pro women are Caitlin Sanders, Hannah Black, and Tracy Johnson. So more people potentially competing in the CrossFit Games season. Kind of like I was saying earlier, nothing is absolutes ever, but especially this year coming off of the tragedy that happened at last year's CrossFit Games. Some people can just be competing for the money. Some of these competitions have big prize purses for the winners. So we may see people compete in competitions who, 1, don't want to take their invitation to the CrossFit Games, but 2, we may see people that have signed up for multiple and qualify through multiple. So that means there's backfills, kind of like the 2019 season when we had all those sanctionals. This may end up looking similar, right? Say somebody like Colton Mertens decides to do 2 or 3 events. He'll probably do the NorCal Classic. He's already at the top of that leaderboard for the qualifier and would have gotten an automatic invite anyway based off of winning last year. But he may also do the West semifinal. And if that's the case, say he was to qualify through the West semifinal, he may still go to NorCal for the prize money. And if he does that, then it would be 2nd and 3rd, theoretically, unless 2nd also already had their ticket, then 3rd and 4th, yes, and so on and so forth. And there would be people who don't compete in the Open who go to these competitions for the money, and then they can't qualify for the games, so it backfills. That might be a complicated part of this season. It was definitely complicated in 2019, but we got through it. And I don't have to be the one to actually do the math. I might have to guess some of the math for these videos, but I don't actually have to let the people in. So someone else is gonna figure out who actually gets to go based on where people qualify and how. And some people can qualify through the in-affiliate semifinal, but they may still go to these competitions. So there will be a little bit to figure out throughout the season. And I've said this before, but I will say it again. I will be doing the CrossFit Games Open. I plan to video all those workouts and show them to you. I've done that before on this channel. Plan to keep on doing that so you guys can learn from my open mistakes. If you're interested in seeing those, make sure you subscribe. Actually, looking at the data, like most people who watch these videos aren't subscribed. This is a late time in this video to be telling people this, but subscribe, please, because it helps me and I appreciate all of you. So make sure you subscribe. Also, if you have any other questions, I did this video partially because I had a couple questions about my thoughts on this Annie Thorisdottir situation. If you have more questions about the Open or this year's season, put them in the comments below. I may decide to do a video just answering some of the questions I've got about this upcoming season because it is a different one for a lot of reasons. A different one because of the circumstances around the season, a different one because of the changes to the season. So with all this stuff being kind of up in the air, I get that people may have questions. So let me know in the comments below. Like I said, subscribe, like this video if you had a good time, and like always, hi, say hi, buddy. He was sitting next to me on the couch. Kirsten, can you look at the camera? Can you look at the camera? Over there. Oh, wrong way. Gonna lay down. Hey, this is my dog Carson, named after where the CrossFit Games used to be in Carson. There you go, say hi. And this year they're in Albany. I have a video on that too. If you missed that, you can go check that out too. Appreciate you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye.